So the last video I made about vinyl and the wonders of listening to vinyl got quite a nice response, some comments, and it seems that I'm not the only one feeling nostalgic when diving into all these little slices of history. I doubt we will talk much about the current music, the music being released in 2025. I doubt we will talk much about it in 40 or 50 years. So it's a little bit of a wonder that I grew up to listen to music that we can still talk about to this day. Obviously, it has to do with the fact that music has become merely social media content. Nobody appreciates music as an art form in the way it should be appreciated, and even less people are willing to actually pay for it. I mean, back in the day when you bought a record, this physical thing here, it was precious. It was expensive. You couldn't buy many records every month. I certainly couldn't with my pocket money. And later, even when I started to make money myself, it was not something that you took lightly when you went into a record store to make your purchase. It was something you thought carefully about. But as I mentioned in the earlier video, nowadays, I go into a vintage record store and I come up for 50 euros. I can come up with 5 to 10 albums, which is wonderful, and they're all in pretty good shape. Not all of them, but some of them I've had to buy twice. But yeah, well, here we go. One thing I've got since the last video is Cock Robin, After Here Through Midland. This is not their first album, which is also a good one, but this one contains the hit single Just Around the Corner. Cock Robin is very delicate music. It's very well produced. It reminds me a little bit about, in the same genre and style as Roxy Music and Brian Ferry. It's that. I don't know if delicious is the right word, but it's really tasty. It's certainly tasty music, and I enjoy listening to it. And this one was really a bargain, five euros. So obviously I took it with me. Another one I didn't mention the last time, but I really do enjoy listening to is Chris de Burgh. Chris de Burgh is an Irish singer, rock musician. He had plenty of hits in the 80s. This one contains Don't Pay the Ferryman. Later on, he had a single called High on Emotion. He's most famously known for The Lady in Red, which is really not really a testament to his catalog in general, because The Lady in Red is a pop ballad. Chris de Burgh would really, particularly in his earlier days, he would have more of a rocky edge to his music, and he would always tell stories with his songs. His albums, they weren't concept albums, but many of it was just a bunch of little stories. Each song telling a story, and he's a history geek, so much of many of his songs are about the Second World War and First World War and soldiers and war in general, and how crazy a war is in general, how it makes no sense at all. So it's quite the lyrics are quite current, in fact. Chris de Burgh. So this one, Eurythmics. I did not really appreciate Eurythmics back in the 80s. I wasn't a huge fan because many of their songs were just not really in the genre of music that I would listen to. But I always appreciated this one. This album is called Revenge, and it has Thorn in My Side, A Missionary Man, and there's another one, When Tomorrow Comes. When Tomorrow Comes. So these songs are really good. And I think it was the last album of by Eurythmics that I paid any attention to, really. I think they did something later on. Someone mentioned the last time that I didn't mention Jean-Michel Jarre. He was one of the first really commercial artists, or artists who had commercial success, like big time, with synthesizer music. And I remember this one, Equinox. It's his second album from 1978. I mean, this still sound modern. This still sound cool, and not many albums of synthesizer music from back then sound modern. Quite frankly, I will get to some examples later on. Synthesizer music from the 80s sounds dated often. This one doesn't. This is great. This is purely instrumental. I had back in the day many more Jean-Michel Jarre albums, and I will collect them if I find them at a good price. Yeah, great stuff. So this is an example of a new release that I didn't have back in the day because it was released in 2009. And it's Dave Matthews Band, Big Whiskey and the Gru Groks Clan. No, Big Whiskey and the Gru Groks King, not Clan, King. When it was released in, as I said, 2009, I did buy the downloads, and I listened to it over and over again. So obviously, when it came to buying vinyl albums, I looked it up, and sure, you could get it. So it's a fairly new press. It's not pressed in 2009 because back then vinyl really wasn't a thing. I must say, it sounds cool. It's on 180 gram records, so the sound is absolutely great. However, the finishing of these newly pressed albums, I'm going to show an example again later on. It's not the finish is not really nice and tasty. It's a little rough on the edges, and particularly the records themselves, they are not really they are a little rough. Just I have no other words for it. It's just it has no effect on the sound at all. It's just, that finish when you take a record out and put it onto the turntable. It seems a little too quickly finished. So, but nevertheless, Dave Matthews, great album, and I can recommend it on vinyl. Can recommend listening to Dave Matthews in general. He's one of the, I guess, biggest singer-songwriters in America. Cool stuff. Another artist. This was my very first concert experience, like really big concert experience, was Mike Oldfield, and I got a couple of his albums. This one is a '83 album called Crisis, with the many will know Moonlight Shadow as the main single. I saw him in '84 when he was touring this album, Discovery. And this is interesting because I really like all the songs on these two albums. And on the tour, in the touring band at the time, Mike Oldfield had the drummer Simon Phillips, who later would join Toto after the untimely death of Jeff Porcaro. Simon Phillips joined Toto, and so all these little stories, all this knowledge about musicians and who played on which albums, who produced what, and you could read all this in on the sleeve notes, and you'd have like a personal indulgence, total experience listening to it and reading about the releases. So my general knowledge about what was going on in the music community that I would listen to was big. It was I knew a lot about all the musicians that I adored and wanted to listen to. Today I have no relation really. I know social media is trying to build that. Ed Sheeran is really good at releasing music and releasing videos about how he makes and creates his art, but apart from, and there are others, but when I listen to the music and I sit down and focus on the music, I don't have much to dive into at the same time as I am listening to it. It would require for me to stop the music that I am focused on and dive into a YouTube video instead. So I think this physical medium here is just better. My wife doesn't like the voice of Sting, but I do, and I found this one fairly cheap. Synchronicity, the last Police album, Every Breath You Take, is on this one. Great album. Hugh Patcham produced it. Hugh Patcham, who was also producing for Genesis and Phil Collins. Great stuff. Really good. What else have we got? We have. Yeah, here's another one that, if you find it at a good price, you should definitely buy it. Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA. For no other reason than this is a really a stamp, an 80s classic rock album. So obviously, if you can find it, you should definitely buy it. Also, yesterday I was in my record shop and I found Supertramp's Breakfast in America, the best Supertramp album ever released. Apparently they were already then sort of, not breaking up, but they were estranged from one another in the band. Rick Davies and Roger Hodgson, the two primary songwriters, they were not really writing together. They would sort of each write songs and they would be pulled into the album work that whatever album they were currently working on, a little bit like Lennon McCartney in their later years. And I actually think Roger Hodgson, I mentioned him the last time in the last video, I actually think he's the best songwriter in Supertramp. Breakfast in America, 1979, I think. Yes. And I must have, absolutely. So, also, Toto. I mentioned Toto last time. Since then, I've bought this one. This is a reissue. This is a repressing, and it brings me back to what I said about the Dave Matthews album. The sound is good. There's nothing to complain about there. However, again, the finish and even the printing of the cover, it's just, the color is a little different. The inner sleeve is I clearly remember when I used to take this album out of its cover, it would have like a shiny glossy paper, not too glossy, like silk gloss. This one is completely matte. So it's just seems like a little bit cheap reprint. Although this this issue here, this album here cost 30 euros. So I don't know. It wasn't bought in a second-hand shop, obviously, in a vintage shop, but still. And I saw this in my local vintage shop the other day for 15 euros. So, but that was the first time. So, as things tend to happen, you find things once you've already bought them, then they're everywhere. However, this album here is the one with Rosanna and Africa, released in 1982. A must-have, absolutely must-have for 80s geeks. There's a genre called yard rock, and this album is one of the most prime examples of yard rock. Who coined the term yard rock? I don't know, but it was apparently because people, wealthy people, would be sitting on their boats listening to this type of music. Very polished, very well produced, very melodic. Other examples, I have no examples of Steely Dan, but Steely Dan is another good example of yard rock. And then the last one I want to show today is this one. This is really, I listened to it yesterday, and this is really an album. It still sounds good. It still sounds fairly good. Visage. This was where Major, who would later form Ultravox, and also together with Bob Geldof, he would write Do They Know It's Christmas and produce it. But this was one of his first, to my knowledge, one of his first releases with Visage. I want to say the entire album is good, and I would listen to it a lot in my youth. The main single on this one is Fade to Grey, which is still to this day sounding fairly good, but all the other stuff sounds dated somehow. I don't know why, but it does. Yeah, Visage. This one was 10 euros. I grabbed it immediately. Yeah, so that's sort of what I wanted to show this time around. But yeah, still enjoying it. Still really finding pleasure in diving into the cover notes and taking out the albums, dusting them off, dropping the needle, and just listening to what comes out. And the funny thing is, when listening to an entire album side, I can sort of still remember which song comes next. It's also one of the things, because I was used to always listening to the entire sides, and yeah, I still have that knowledge in my head, and I still have that memory in my, the next song is this and this, and I can still remember the first piano notes or drum snare hits or whatever of the next song. These little things that you just don't get when you listen to streaming. So anyways, that was it for now. I might get back to this every once in a while, just talking about the albums that I enjoy listening to and the albums I stumble upon. So, and if I mention some albums more than once, forgive me. This is just me sitting here talking. So, have a great day and enjoy listening to vinyl, hopefully. It's not really something that... It doesn't necessarily have to be expensive to listen to vinyl. I mean, it's still something you can get to on a budget. As I mentioned in the other video, I'm not really into the specific sound or placement of the speakers. It's just the nostalgia around it, and you can get that you can buy a used record player, you can buy used boxes, loudspeakers. It doesn't have to be expensive at all, really. It doesn't. And thinking about the hours of joy that you can have diving into the album releases, I really think it's cheap. Really. So that was what I wanted to say today. Have a good day.